You're listening to the Bear in Mind podcast, episode number 53.
A podcast uncovering identity, color, and love, where driving yourself crazy is totally sane and curable. Now your host, T. Bias.
It's been 1 year since the podcast, and it's been quite a roller coaster ride. In the previous episodes, I mentioned I was going to actually stop the podcast, and I decided to continue it, and I'm so excited. And it's kind of an amazing story, something that happened when I was deciding, okay, I'm going to stop. And one of the things that I had decided was I was going to stop at somewhere after episode 40 or something, but I said, no, I committed to a year and I'm going to finish it. And back in episode number 51, I had talked about setting a goal and completing it. And one of the things that happened that enabled me to continue with doing this podcast was I had about, somewhere between 8 to 12 episodes left, and I needed to get them all done because I had another time commitment where I wasn't going to be able to record some episodes. And I said, oh no, I have to get all of these done in a really short amount of time. And then voila, I was able to get it done in a really short amount of time. And I realized I didn't actually need as much time to create podcast episodes. And it was kind of a funny thing about that kind of constraint. I hadn't put it in place in my agenda, and I had kind of given myself these like a lot of time in my agenda to finish an episode when in fact I only needed this amount of time. And so I was really excited. I found out how to kind of streamline the process so I could continue having our conversations like we've been having. And so I'm happy to say that I'm going to continue with the podcast and I'm committing to another year. And so it also allowed me to look at what direction I wanted to take the podcast in. And as this title of the episode is Get Whatever You Want Wherever, that is actually what I'm going to kind of focus on in this weird kind of way. So when I read nonfiction books and I read blogs or listen to other podcasts and things like that, I notice that people tend to tell their story when they have accomplished something, when they have finished a goal or anything that they wanted. And one of the frustrating things for me is like, well, what does it look like? I mean, what is it that people went through to accomplish something that they truly wanted? Now, I think most of us have accomplished something in our lives, but a lot of times we've accomplished something that maybe we've done out of fear or because we wanted somebody's approval or something like that. But when you really think about the things that you truly desire, leaving out all of society's remarks, and that essentially means like your parents probably or any family or friends and their remarks, and you really think about what you truly want, and there's an element of it being kind of scary. And we tend to maybe hold back in actually going after that. And then even if we get over that kind of initial, like, okay, I'm kind of afraid to go after this because maybe it's not what somebody else wants for me or anything like that, and we're going against a little bit of I would say, the grain, then it's like, well, how do you actually end up going about doing it? So I'm actually going to document me fulfilling a lot of my goals as it goes on. I'm in the middle of them. Some of them I've just set. And for example, I'm in the middle of this podcast journey, and this year is going to be so much different than the first year, but yet I still have a goal with it. And primarily because the first year was just filled with trying to learn everything. And I kind of wish I had documented some of those things, like the ups and downs of trying to learn new things and everything like that. Because I think that when you can understand a little bit of the path, not that it's the same for everyone, but a little bit of the journey, then I think there's some sort of understanding that can happen that, okay, achieving something that you truly want isn't something that's kind of out there. It's something more real and tangible. And it's not supposed to be this like great journey to the end point. At the end point, you celebrate, or it's not even supposed to be this difficult journey, and at the end, you celebrate it. And I think also that documenting this is more in line with actually what the name of this podcast is. It's Bear in Mind. So I'm going to basically be quote unquote naked with my mind and all of the parts of the journey, the messy parts, the disasters, and also the great moments in this journey. And I've already started documenting some of the stuff that I've been going through with some of my goals. And I've just recently set some goals, so I'm going to be talking about that in the next couple of episodes. And I think it's going to be kind of fun to talk about a little bit, almost like per week, what's happening. Now, not every week's episode am I going to document every little thing, and I'm still going to keep a lot of things the same. So not much is changing, but it's going to be more of in the moment of what's happening rather than after the moment. Oh, yeah, well, I figured this out, and this is what happens, and this is what I learned, rather than this is going to be the headache, this is the mess up, this is the failure, and we'll just go from there. And I'm kind of excited to do that because I think that it's going to be kind of a more interesting conversation between the two of us, because that's kind of how life looks like. It's kind of the in-betweens of life. There's moments where we do achieve something, but those moments are very short if you really think about it. And then usually we go on to the next thing. And then there's this whole process. There's this whole journey. And sometimes we don't even push ourselves in that next step of having that next goal or that next journey because we think, well, okay, there's nothing more. And I think even documenting and understanding kind of that journey is that you realize that there can always be something that you want to achieve wherever you're at. So that's actually the second part is it's get whatever, wherever you're at. And even if it's a goal which you, and I'm putting this in quotes, what you think is small, but actually feels really big to you. And in episode 51, when I talked about please setting a goal, the goal can be every day going outside for a walk for 5 minutes. Or a goal could be, I want to practice yoga 3 times a week. And my goal was to do this podcast for a year, and it's not maybe necessarily something a lot of people would think is a big goal or a small goal, but yet even going through that process and that journey, there was so much I could take away from that, from pushing myself to finish the episodes to realizing, oh my God, I can streamline this process. I don't have to dedicate a ton of time to the editing and all of this kind of stuff. Because no matter where you're at in your life, there is something that you truly want. And some of those things can feel quite embarrassing. And I'm going to be talking about my embarrassing goal that I'm setting coming up in the next episode. Some of those goals can feel really impossible. And a lot of times there's goals that we don't even want to share with anyone, not necessarily because of embarrassment, because there's such a weight to it, or it feels so impossible that it feels like a dream, and that even if you tell somebody about it, it'll kind of burst that dream bubble. And here's what I want to offer you as I continue on this new path, this renewed path in podcasting, is that I hope you come along with me and you kind of figure out what is it that you want wherever you're at. And that could be wherever you're at in the world, or it can be wherever you're at in your life. And you come along with me on this journey as I document the ups and downs and the learnings from the failures and also the celebrations, and that we can celebrate those together. So I'll say goodbye and I'll leave it here, and I'll check back with you next week.
Thanks for listening. Listen for a new episode next Tuesday by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Bye for now.